What's up, Sean? I feel like I just saw you yesterday.
I know.
Odd. It's odd.
This is the best monogamous relationship I've ever had. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as a extreme compliment.
Hey, you're very gentle.
I try. See his hands. It's like artist hands, lots of lotion.
Mm-hmm.
Very soft. Very soft. Yeah. No. Anyway, it's Friday night. Am I correct in that? Friday night?
I think it's Friday. I'll spread that rumor. Yeah.
Let's do that. We're waiting for people to get in here and just bullshit for a second. Oh, I'm tired of bullshitting. So anyway, welcome everybody. This is the
Art and Stuff show. And like Richard Marx, I'll be waiting for you. I'm Sean Ahrendt. I totally fucked that up.
Not
with me. Yeah. With me, as always, is my brother and Art.
Very attractive, very sexy, very distinguished. Always narcissistic, but never vain. A staunch defender of Rob Liefeld, and a lover of all things 90s. Joseph Michael Sonntag, or Joe M. Sonntag if you prefer, or as the Pope likes to call me, JMS. And on a personal note, you can take that dark winter that you're talking about and shove it right up your ass. Some people know what I'm talking about, but if not, we're going to move on from that. Welcome to the show, everybody. And what a glorious, glorious show it's going to be. I'm not wearing any pants because it's Friday, and this is Pantless Friday.
Yeah.
That's what we do here on the Odd and Stuff show. We don't wear pants on Fridays. So
we run with the lifestyle of Donald Duck.
Quack, quack. I can't do a Donald Duck impersonation, otherwise I would.
I can't anymore.
That was actually better than I would do it. But
no, not anymore. I think I smoke too much. It's like
Yeah, I can definitely tell that. Well, we got I would say, in my opinion, a giant indie scene of everything that he's done with his company, everything he's done for independent creators in general. I think we're going to dive into some really interesting conversations about publishing books and all that good stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to Sean, who is our hype man, and the pressure's on you, buddy.
I'm like the cracked out Flavor Flav. It's like, no boy. All right. We have a phenomenal guest. We have Peter Simeti of Alterna Press, Comics, all of it. Let's just bring him up. I want to ask him many, many questions.
All right, here we go.
Just get this. I'm very excited.
Peter, welcome to the show.
Publishing Peter.
How you doing, man?
How's it going, Joe? How's it going, Sean?
Very good. Thank you for taking the time and chilling with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
When we reached out to you for being on the show, and you said yes, I was really excited because, just long story short, I'm going to try to keep this short because I have a tendency to ramble. But 5 years ago, I'd been out of comics for years. I'm talking about, like, I didn't follow comics. I wasn't drawing. I wasn't doing a lot. I was doing other lifestyle. I was in a band. When I came back to comics, I got back into it. I'm trying to jump around, trying to discover what's going on. And I kept coming across on the social media sites, Alterna Comics. I didn't really know what it was. And I just thought it was kind of another, like small indie. In my time, there were so many people that made their own comics and put them out there. But there's like a one book thing out of their basement kind of stuff. Then one day I walked into my local comic book store and boom, there it was on the shelf. And I was like, holy shit, like I know this. I picked up an issue and I'm looking, I can't remember what the book was, but I was looking through it and I started paying a little bit more attention. And then I started to realize like how big Alterna actually is. Like the stuff that you're doing, the books that you put out, the creators that you take on, is quite impressive, and you've been around for a lot longer than I thought. Because again, my knowledge for a lot of things in this show kind of goes back to about 5 years, and then there's a giant gap of time that I was not in the industry. I wasn't paying attention to stuff. So I was really excited to have you on because it's talking to somebody where I can actually see your book in my store, which I think is pretty fucking cool. Sorry. So
what's your local comic shop?
It's called Fanfare in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Actually, it'd be Portage, Michigan. No, it's Kalamazoo.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, they've been around for shit, dude. Since I was a little kid, I think they've been around longer than that. But that's been the biggest. There's been other stores that popped up, and nothing's ever lasted. So they've kept it going. But yeah, they carry your books. And they carry a lot of different books. But
what up, Alterna?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man? But yeah, Alterna is definitely amongst the books that they pull in. I think that's pretty cool to see. You know, it's heartwarming. It's inspirational. If I could be cheesy about it.
Well, I definitely give them my thanks for carrying us in their store, especially at that point in time too. We're no longer with Diamond, so I hope that they establish a direct deal with us so they can actually get the books back on their shelves. But this year has been a crazy year, so I don't really expect too much of shops at this point in terms of carrying our books and getting that kind of stuff in. But in 2021, though, we'll be coming at them a little bit harder.
Yeah, this year, I mean, nobody saw this year coming. It's just kind of like you sway with the wind right now. You know, I know a lot of people are hurting with that, and a lot of. So you going basically more to like a direct consumer kind of thing right now, right? Straight from your website, or?
Yeah. People can get everything, and that's readers and retailers too, because we do distribute to, I'd say, regularly about 60 to 70 retailers. We have about maybe 100 in total that order on a quarterly basis, kind of as they sell out, as new books come in, that sort of thing. But they can go to alternaaccess.com. We sell everything there. And that's the thing, is that we've been selling direct to readers and somewhat retailers for the past 2 years. And in large part because of the fact that even though we had Diamond distribution for about 10 or so years before we just recently left, they, especially with the single issues, and we brought them out in 2017, they weren't handling reorders very well. We've lost, I think, by the time over 2017 May, when they came out, to when we left in like 2020, I'd say February, March, they lost about 16,000 reorders for us.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, a big reason why we started selling direct was because we were losing so many sales. I didn't want people to go to eBay or something like that, you know, right off the bat and start paying collectible prices for the books. We're sitting around and I have issues available. I figured might as well just sell them, because we overprinted. I mean, you should always overprint. Anyone out there that's watching, that's a creator, you should always overprint 20 to 30% easily of your initial estimated print run. So we had all these books around. It's not like they were sold out and then the collector market is what it is. We had a bunch of books. So why not just sell them direct to people? And we started doing that. And eventually 2019, especially month over month, our sales direct were better than our sales through Diamond. So when 2020 hit, it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer to just leave them at that point, especially things were so up in the air, and being tied to Diamond, it seemed like, well, we knew where our fate was going to lie with them. We were going to kind of just slowly dwindle away. So we had to do something on our own, and selling direct was just, it was great, and it's worked out great for us since. So I'm excited to keep doing that. And hey, Pedro, what's up? And you know, we'll keep doing that, and we're going to have success with it, because we have been having success with it. And crowdfunding as well has offered a really nice outlet to have a fun way to get all these books out to people and make events out of it, as opposed to just, oh, you list it on a site and people can go and they could buy it or whatever. But it's different with crowdfunding.
Well, could we go into a little bit of your origin, how you got into comic books, what made you want to become a publisher?
What up, Mike?
And what's up, Mikey? And just what made you?
Well, I mean, I've been reading comics more or less my whole life. I've been, you know, I can't remember a time in my life that comic books weren't around in some way, shape, or form. So I always wanted to do something with my life in terms of being involved with comics. As far as when Alterna started, we started in 2006, and it was mostly just print on demand at that point in time. And eventually, once we got distribution in 2008, we shifted from trying to do single issues and print on demand, because you really can't. The price structure doesn't make it feasible. So we just went right into doing graphic novels. So creators also at the time, I didn't want to put out, like, let's say, we'll have a creator, and if I were to do it, especially right now, and say put out single issues, you'd need 4 or 5 single issues on the backlog before you start getting the first issue out there. This way you have something ready and there's a buffer. When you're a new publisher, though, that's a lot to ask of someone to say, well, make sure you've got a bunch of issues done already, and then we'll start putting the first one out. That just kind of sounds like a scam. So it doesn't make much sense. So at the time, I figured, the best way we could do it is, instead of doing this issue by issue kind of thing, we'll put out graphic novels, and this way it's like a big release. We can get into the book market as well right away, and the comic market. And so we did that, and we had maybe about 20 or 30 books come out, for about 3 or 4 years, putting out one or so every month, every other month. And eventually, though, I found that the graphic novel market was starting to get really flooded. Everyone was putting out graphic novels. Everyone was putting out trades. Every single, 6 issues turned into a trade. It just felt like they were losing what they really were great for. Graphic novels are great to keep around for forever, for these stories that are supposed to be either maybe outside of continuity or out of the box, or really, really great if they're a trade and you compile a bunch of issues. It seemed like everything was turning into a trade. So as that happened, shelf space for those things started to get eaten up. So we were starting to see sales decline, plateau, and eventually we had to kind of make a really difficult decision of, well, now what do we do? Because I'm not going to put out single issues at like $4 or $5 a piece. It just didn't seem right. I don't like a lot of the comics that are out right now that look the way they look, where they have like cardstock covers, or it's really thick paper, or it's glossy paper, or whatever. If we were going to put single issues out, I wanted to have single issues that look like the comics that I grew up with, the comics I fell in love with. And those were all priced at a relatively affordable rate and on newsprint. I just love the way newsprint looks. I love the way everything about it. It just means comic books to me when I pick up a newsprint comic. So when we put out the newsprint comics in 2017 and the average price was $1.50, again, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, that's not going to catch on. No one's going to buy that. They're going to think it's too cheap, so it's bad. You're going to put yourself out of business at the end of the year. All these things that we heard. And that year was our best year we ever had in Alterna's history. Then 2018 came around. That was the best year we ever had. 2019 came around, and then that year toppled 2018. So it was over and over again. We were having a lot of growth, a lot of success based on the back of these $1.50, $1.99 comics. A lot of people got into our books that they were picking up issues that they said, well, if this was priced at $4, I wouldn't have got it. But I gave it a shot because it was $1.50, $1.99. It looked decent enough. I figured, why not? And then it turned into one of their favorite books. It was time after time we were hearing all these kinds of things. So here we are now. We've got a crowdfunder going on, and it kind of encompasses all of that, because the reason that we have this crowdfunder going on is because a lot of our readers have requested things over the years, and this is the perfect opportunity to offer those things to them.
Very cool.
Did you when you were doing the releasing these books at, I don't want to say well, it was a cheaper rate as far as price goes, but like you're talking about, you're bringing back the old school kind of feel. And for anybody that hasn't actually picked up an issue of an alternative comic, it does have that newsprint feel to it. And that was the first thing I noticed when I read one of the books that I saw in the store. It does have like that old school, thinner paper that you just, it's a very like kind of a nostalgic aspect when you're reading the books. That, and this, most of the stuff I've seen in my local store from you guys has had some really cool art. And as an artist, that's the thing that attracts me more. I hate to say it, it's just, I always get flack from some people. It attracts me more than the story.
Well, it has to, though. That's the first thing you see. You don't see the story. You don't read the writing first. You see the art.
Right. Yep. So I mean, if the art looks cool, that's the thing that's gonna make me pick up the book, and then it's gonna make me flip through, as long as the storytelling as far as the artist goes is good. And then I'll go through, and buy it or read it and get into the characters or whatever. But I would say that, the quality of your guys' books, or your books is very good. You don't look at it and say like, this is a lesser quality of a book because of the way, it feels, or, the quality of the art teams or whatever are very amateurish. Like, I think it carries a very professional appeal to your books. And is that I guess the vetting process, I should say, when you're looking for creators or when you're putting books out, what is the standard you're trying to keep with that? I guess is my long-winded question.
Yeah, so it's a difficult thing to explain in some way because I guess I'm the only one that knows what I'm looking for.
Sure.
So we'll get maybe 100 to 150 submissions a month, and of those submissions, maybe one or two gets a positive response back to get accepted.
Right.
So it is an arduous process, but I don't find it's necessarily because the content isn't necessarily good or anything like that. A lot of the submissions that get rejected, it's just because of the fact that I feel maybe they're a year or two or more away from being ready to be published.
Gotcha.
A lot of the times, even too, I'll get submissions where the person will just flat out say, "This is the first time I've ever drawn anything." This is the first time I've ever written anything. I find people are rushing to get their comic published. Don't do that. That's the number one thing that I see. Other than that, the second thing that I see is just it's little things. So it'll be like the lettering is off. You need a letterer. It'll be something like the line weights on inking or the coloring, it's not up to par, or the proportions, or there's the consistency of the art isn't really there yet. It's just little fine tuning here and there.
Right.
It's nothing that's basically because it's always just a bad fit story wise at Alterna, because we have all kinds of stories at Alterna. We have a very diverse lineup, so there's all kinds of styles too here. But it depends upon the creative team and what they're doing in terms of, is it working all together? And I think that kind of thing has come over the years as almost like a second nature kind of thing for me, from seeing so many submissions and so many different things and knowing what sold. Because it wasn't as easy at first in the beginning. It was just, this book looks okay to me. I've seen other books that look like it that get published. Right. I guess we'll put it out. And it's different. And you also need people too that kind of have the right attitude, that they also want to get these books out to as many people as possible. They want to create as good of a book as they can, because obviously we're finding a lot in the industry that some people don't necessarily want certain people to read their book or whatever it is. And that's an impossibility. You can't control something like that. So I want creators that they want to get their books read. They want to get them out there, and they care about the kind of stories they're making, and they hope that people enjoy them.
Normal people.
Yeah.
Normal
people.
Right.
No one's normal. I'm not normal. You're not normal. I don't know what normal is.
True.
Anyone that reads a comic, heck, even if you don't want to read the comic, even if you just like the art, and you don't even know what the story's about, even if you just like the cover and you're like, I'm never opening this, but the cover looked good. Purchase the comic. That's fine too.
Yeah, I don't know how many books I bought where I literally did not read a single word of the book. I just looked at it because I was like, man, the art's really cool, and I'll flip through it and check it out, and it goes in my collection. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of people that I know that are, especially creators that started. They just get inspired from the art. They just look through it just to look through it because they like the art. It speaks to them, but they don't really know the characters or the story or anything like that. So we have a couple people that are like that too. Eventually, I mean, they always read something, but maybe they don't read everything here, but they do get everything here. So it's funny to see people collect comics for all kinds of different reasons. And I love the fact that we offer so many different ones, because we've had so many different kinds of readers over the years approach us with different stories about the kind of books that they read, the kind of books that they like. Maybe they're giving these as gifts. So it's that kind of a thing where, you make these comics to go out into the world. You never know who's going to enjoy them or not enjoy them. Right.
And that's not your job, though. Your job isn't to control who reads them. Your job is to just create them.
Yeah.
So now, after you pick up a book, do you hand that, like, do you guys have an editing group that takes over, and there's editors that kind of handle the direction of that book, or do you leave it solely up to like the creators and then whatever they're submitting to you to keep on track? Like, how hands-on are you to all the books once you actually pick them up?
Well, I'm always someone that's there for them. So if they need to bounce ideas or anything off of me, they can feel free to do that. We've had a book like, for instance, Trespasser. I've used this example a bunch of times. When Trespasser was submitted, it was a one-shot and it was black and white. And I said, look, you created a very interesting story here. There's characters that are great. It ends on a great cliffhanger. And I get you could stop the story right now, but do you think you have a couple more issues in you? Did you want to flesh this story out? Did you want to color it too? Because I saw the artists coloring, and they do a great job. The artist was Christian Rossi. The writer of the book is Justin M. Ryan, and the book is great. So he took that advice. He went back and said, I think I could actually flesh out the story. And let me resubmit it to you and get that to you. So even though the book was great, it was still kind of a rejected submission because I was waiting to see if they would revise it and send it in.
Gotcha.
So I'm glad that they did, and they expanded upon the story. And even though he added 3 more issues, and they're great issues, I'd still like to see him do even more because, again, the characters, the world is so great, and he still left it on a cliffhanger again, so he can continue if he wants. But
right.
So it's that kind of thing, though. So I'll bounce off ideas with people like that. I'll change up maybe a logo, or I'll help design something or whatever. But as far as actually changing the story or anything like that, I try not to get in too much with saying, oh, well, what if this character was like this, or yeah,
I got you.
This character was like, so it's things like that. I hate when that kind of thing happens for creators, because what happens at that point is that you now start creating your own story out of their story. And they're not really telling the story they want to tell anymore. And now what happens if the way that they wanted to do it, maybe that was great. Maybe you thought your way was great, but what if the way they wanted to tell it was great? So if I have a submission that comes in and I just don't necessarily think it's a good fit because I just can't get into the story or whatever it is that they're trying to do, I would much rather just reject that submission and have them do the story they want to do, as opposed to say, well, what if you tweak this and you change that and you rename that and you design that character like that? At that point, it's not theirs anymore. So I'd rather just have them do what they got to do. And then when they have the book at Alterna, it's the same mentality.
No, that's awesome, because when a book is tweaked like that too much, in somebody's opinion, for better, the original creator, you're going to lose that passion, because that's not what they originally wanted to do. So the excitement kind of gets sucked out of them, and maybe they don't produce their best work and they're not into it, and it's just not fulfilling for the creator anymore. So I mean, that's awesome you say that. That's
exactly that's the thing. I find a lot of creators, they'll often worry, is my book right for the publisher? Is it something that'll fit in with them? You should also take into consideration that the publisher is thinking, we're probably not the right publisher for you. So it's not just that you're not a good fit for someone. They could not be a good fit for you. So you want to make sure that if you're trying to find a publisher for your work, that it's a great fit for both of you. Because I'll also see this with a lot of creators, that they're so anxious to get published. They just submit to whoever. And I know that they do it because we'll get letters like, Dear Image, Dear Dark Horse, Dear Arcana Comics, Dear Arcana. And it's like, I know that they're submitting to anyone and everyone, and I get it, but you shouldn't do that. You want to make sure that you're aware of the books a publisher publishes, because the thing is, like, and actually purchase some of their books too, and see what they look like. Because even if you go to Alterna's site, let's say, and you go, oh, these books, they look good. They're well made. Okay, I'll submit. But you've never got a book. You've never opened one up. You've never actually read one from us. You just kind of see the things that are listed on the site.
Right.
Now, what happens if you actually do come across one of our books one day, and not saying that this has happened, but let's say someone goes, oh, these are crap. I didn't know they would be on newsprint, or they would look like this, or the stories would be like that. I don't want my book associated with these books. So it's that kind of a thing where you want to make sure that you're actually buying the books and that you're actually aware of what a publisher publishes. You don't want to just take that dive just because you're like, oh, well, they got submissions open. I should just submit just because you want to make sure, again, that your book is good for them, but that they're also good for you.
No, yeah, that's great advice.
True.
That's I was saying, I know that I saw a conversation on Twitter, and I brought this up on our stream last night. I saw a conversation on Twitter the other day with I think it was between Sweetcast, Brett Booth, Rob Willis. There was a couple other people, and they were talking about the pros and cons between crowdfunding and then submitting to Image. Because for most people that grew up in the 90s, like I spent most of my teenage years in the 90s, Image was the shit. As far as an aspiring artist, creator, that's like where you wanted to go. And now Image isn't what Image used to be, but the logo, the eye, the allure is still there. And so I always see people, it's like, I want to get my book picked up by Image. It's like the first thing everyone always says. And I think Brett Booth has actually done a great job of telling people kind of not the fall, but the issue with trying to get picked up by Image, the money you have to kind of pay, if they accept your book, how they bring you on, all the hoops you got to jump through. And in that aspect, I jumped in and started talking about crowdfunding as the way to go for maybe a first-time creator that's just trying to get their book out and just get it funded, as opposed to just trying to, like you said, submit to everybody and anybody that might take your book. And I think crowdfunding is a good way just to get it out there. And if you want to get something published, you want to get some excitement generated, you do it that way. And then if you do it that way, do you think it's easier to take it to like Alterna and say, hey, I've got this following, I've got this excitement for it, and I've got a couple issues already made, can you take a look at my book? And if so, do you think that's a good way to kind of come at a publisher from that aspect, instead of just like, hey, here's my book, what do you think?
I don't know if it's a good way to come at necessarily any publisher, but at Alterna, that's fine. We've had a bunch of books like that. We've had books that were crowdfunded, and we've put out either the graphic novel as our own or re-release or whatever. We've been doing that kind of thing for like 6 years. And then also we've got books now that, and I think this is the future of a lot of independent publishing. I think it has to find that don't try to compete with crowdfunding. Use crowdfunding as another tool. So find a way for it to work for you. So you could have these creators that put out these exclusive editions, these more, I guess, special and limited editions, and then they can do whatever they want to do with that. They can sign books, they can add something that's unique to the campaign, all these kinds of things that you can't just do with just having it listed at a publisher. And then when it goes to a publisher like Alterna, we're going to be, I think this is how it's going to be. I think we're going to be more like a republisher. So we're going to be more like, we're going to see more, I think, crowdfunding as a big premiere event for books. Mm-hmm. And then when it goes to a publisher, it's kind of like getting onto broadcast TV or basic cable syndication, So you can go to the main event, you can go to the big theatrical release, which would be the crowdfund. And then, or later on, or you could do both. There's an option for you at a publisher that they could release it either in a smaller way, a more affordable way, whatever it is down the line. But you don't get those same exclusives. It's not part of. It's a very different experience than saying you were part of what made this book come to life, and you have all these different things that you could never get directly from the publisher. That's a lot of how we're going to be doing things in the future. I think a lot of publishers are going to start doing the same kind of thing. We've already been starting to do stuff like that, but I think it's going to become so much more so in that way, where I think publishers are going to finally realize that they can use direct sales techniques to get things directly to readers, directly to retailers, and not necessarily have to rely solely upon the distribution system that's in place, that for the most part, it's kind of failing people. I hate to say that, but it failed us in a lot of different ways. It's taking on too much, instead of saying, you know what, let's be the premier distributor of just like maybe 20 of the top publishers or whatever, and kind of let the market build up another distribution presence for indies or whoever else. I think Diamond wanted to take on every single publisher and whoever they could possibly take on. And then it got to a point that they really couldn't handle all those accounts. There's too many comics now. There's too many comics and there's not enough stores. So the sales by volume aren't there. And you need, for print to succeed as an industry, any kind of print industry, you need volumized sales. If you don't have that, the price is just going to go up and up and up and up because you're trying to make up for the lack of sales. But the thing is, even if every comic was $100 an issue, you're going to lose the amount of readership that you have, which is it's way more important actually to have more readers than it is to have, this high per unit price. And there's a cap. There's always a cap. So let's say even if you could sell $20, $25, $30 graphic novel or whatever, if you start saying, well, if I sold that graphic novel for $50 to all of those people, I'll double my money. No, you won't, because all of those people will not purchase it at that price. So as the price goes higher and higher, even if you're talking about smaller prices of $2 or $5 or $6, you're going to lose readership the higher that price goes. So comics are not just competing with comics. Comics are competing with everything else too. All other kinds of entertainment. And a lot of it nowadays is free. So the movie industry is seeing the same thing. Television is seeing the same thing. News media is seeing the same thing. There's people that will just report the news and they'll just tweet it, or they'll just make a YouTube video, and that's basically for free.
Right.
Reviewers that review books or movies. A lot of the things that people look towards now, Amazon reviews, those things are free. That's not a paid reviewer who's qualified and this and that and whatever, and they say, oh, well, this was my opinion of it. People don't necessarily trust that kind of stuff anymore. So they're turning more and more towards these avenues of just word of mouth and kind of these lower cost alternatives. So comics as a medium have to kind of go, you know what, the curve went up. It has to start going kind of back down again on a mainstream level and getting comics out to more people. And I think so far the best way to do that has been utilizing the internet, utilizing crowdfunding. It's become the modern spinner rack. So we don't have the spinner racks of the 80s or whatever, but they didn't have the internet. So publishers have to adapt and realize this is a new way to get stuff in front of everybody again.
Oh yeah, it's funny too, because you bring up the price of things, and that's all you see in the industry is that the price of books keep going up, and then they want to put out these specialty books, and the price of that goes up. Sean and I were just talking before we went live that I'm a semi-collector when it comes to books. I don't collect everything. I don't collect characters, but I follow certain artists. And if they do something, I like to collect what they do. And so Batman the Three Jokers comes out. It's a hell of a story, great art, but every book has 5 covers, and as a collector of the artists that I follow, I want to get all 5 covers. And so I do. I put them in my pull list. But every issue is like $8, so like it's a lot of money to drop for one issue when you're buying that issue 5 times.
Yeah, and then publishers don't realize it too, but they start cannibalizing upon their own sales by doing things like that. So let's say you just said 5 covers, $8 a piece, right? So that's $40. That's not 5 different books and spreading out your favorite artists across different books. So now you try other books because you're like, hey, my favorite artist is doing a cover for this book. Never would have picked up, but I love their art, so I got to pick up this book. Instead, it's all going to this one book to inflate the sales of this one book. And that eats away at the potential sales for the other books. Instead of saying, oh, all those great artists, instead of doing all these different covers, have them spread across the line, the company line of getting all these people involved and saying, you know what, you might not have wanted to read, I'm not going to say a specific character, but you might not have wanted to read this character, but it has this creator on it that's doing a cover. Maybe you pick it up because of that. And then maybe you open up that book and you read it and you go, oh, this book isn't so bad. I think maybe I want to get the next issue. I want to follow it. That's kind of how they used to do it. Now they're kind of doing the thing where they just say, well, let's just put everything here, just make it very concentrated, have this effort into this one big hyped up book, and it's always to the detriment of even the other books that they publish. So it's not just like, oh, it takes away the dollars from Alterna or Marvel or whoever else, if DC were to do that, or any publisher. It takes even dollars away from their own line. So you start competing against yourself. Even at Alterna, you could get in the average month that we release books, especially before this whole mess happened this year when we had a more consistent release schedule, you could spend $10 or less and get all of our books for the month. It'd be like 4 or 5 issues. People would just go, just give me everything Alterna. That's what's $10. I'll find something I like. And even if I liked half of it, it's well worth it. You can't do that though with other publishers. So if you were to say, especially the bigger ones, right? And any publisher too, especially, this is what I always found was so interesting and so bizarre at the same time. Alterna is not a universe publisher. So you could almost view that every single book is a universe unto itself, and Alterna is just like this larger whatever, and there's these multiverses that exist, but they never interact. If someone wants to view it that way, you could view it that way. It's creator owned, so there's no crossovers, nothing like that. Right. But when you're a bigger publisher like a Marvel or a DC, you're producing a universe. So you ideally want everyone to read everything that you're making within that universe. So why are you producing a lineup that's just not sustainable for the average reader in terms of both cost and time? It's just you're bloating your universe for what?
Right.
It's very odd. And I think that we're seeing, instead of seeing maybe 5 or 6 Batman or Spider-Man or whatever kind of titles, and sometimes there's more than that, imagine just seeing 1 or 2. And maybe, who knows, maybe they start selling 200,000 or 300,000 of a title. And now 200,000 or 300,000 people are reading a particular book. Instead of it's like, 70,000 here, or 50,000 there, or 80,000 there. If you were to get people actually all together reading, maybe even if you just had one Spider-Man title or one Batman, maybe you're selling now 500,000 Batman or Spider-Man. 500,000 readers reading the same book is a very powerful message to send. But when it's all dispersed across, these 8 or 9 or 10 different Bat family, Spider family, whatever kind of titles, it's a big mess. Yeah. And also your overhead for production goes through the roof because you're making all these different titles with all these different teams and all these different schedules. And why? When people just want to read Batman, they don't want to read every single other little thing that comes out. So it's interesting to see that, and that's mostly what they used to do. Like the heyday of all those companies, they had a more toned down, a more focused release schedule, where it was just a handful. Maybe, it was crazy even back in the 90s to see all the X-Men books that would come out, but they were all so good. It was like you felt like you kind of had to, and at that time, the ones I remember reading, it was like X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force. And I think that was it. But, so 4 or 5 titles, that seemed like, wow, how do I keep up with that? But that's a lot. Now it's there's like 5 of each of those teams, and then there's like 5 other miniseries for the 5, and then they get rebooted in 6 months, and you're like, I don't even know what's happening anymore now. And, your favorite character is like this or like that, or they're dead, or they're whoever, or they're So how could you keep up? How could you possibly keep up? And especially the average reader who maybe would just get an issue every couple of months, they think there used to be you could just go to the store and see, that cover looks interesting of X-Men. Right. I'll pick it up. You can't just get into that book and just read that book and go, I like that book. And the reason you got the next one was because you liked the one you just read. Now it's turned into like this big event thing. Everything's like this huge whatever. And you could read the issue that's in the middle of like a 12-part thing, and you have no idea what the hell's going on. It's just, it's a very weird way to do it.
Do you think the event is the event is kind of killing the market because they're kind of almost forcing you to get it, and people are just kind of getting sick, and it's like,
yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah, I think that kind of really did a lot of irreparable damage, especially in like the mid 2000s to like 2012 or so. And I felt like they were trying to claw their way out of it again by when 2014, 2015 rolled around. And then both companies were doing, I think DC rebooted like 3 times in 12 years. And then Marvel with the all new, all different, and this and that and whatever. It's like, look, absolutely, if you guys want to introduce new characters, do it. I loved seeing all the new characters when I was a kid. I did. I thought it was great, but it was done differently. It was done where the new characters were introduced alongside characters that were already established and you knew and you loved, and it was fun seeing this new face interact with the familiar ones. So that was kind of a nice way to introduce someone new. But now when it becomes like, okay, here's this new character, and now they're getting their own series, and no one really knows who they are for the most part, and then the series gets canceled in 4 issues, and then they go, oh, it's because the readers, that's why. It's what? That doesn't make any sense. It's no, because your publishing schedule and your lineup and the way that you release these things, it's all over the place. It's not conducive to getting a new reader on board that can fall in love with these characters, and then you pay attention to the sales and go, oh, okay, people really love this character, they want more of this character, let's give them their own series. That could take years to establish sometime. That doesn't really happen anymore. Everything feels like they have their 1 or 2 year outline, And it's like at certain points this happens and this happens, and it doesn't matter if the sales are there or if the readers like the character, that we have to give this character a book because that's part of the plan and the publishing schedule. That doesn't make any sense. There's already more than enough books out. I don't understand why they feel they need to, everything's got to have its own title and whatever else.
Yeah, so many books.
Yeah, some of the best issues that I loved were, you know, all I could think is like that Uncanny X-Men issue with it's the flashback one with Captain America, Black Widow, Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
You know, it just had nothing almost to do with nothing, but it was like, whoa, you saw that out of nowhere, and you're like, what's going on this month? You had to pick it up. And it's stuff like that doesn't really happen as much anymore, if ever. So everything's so driven. This weird kind of, it's got to be an event, and it's got to be, you know, if we do this thing with these different characters or we introduce new ones or whatever, they're going to get their own book. Why? They don't need their own book. They haven't done anything that warrants their own book. It's very weird. It really is.
I mean,
yeah, it seems like they're. I'm sorry to cut you off. It seems
no,
like
go for it.
Just to stay on this for a little bit longer, but they're just getting it to get it on the toy aisle, you know, or
it's that kind of mentality. Yeah, it's to kind of have like a new IP to show off because they're not the companies they used to be. So they're not really comic companies anymore. They're media companies. They're IP companies. So they're not really doing the thing where they're thinking, well, the comics first and they propel everything else, because that's how that used to be. Now it's, well, you know, we're just making more IP to make more IP. Even the reason why they change a lot of the times, I guarantee this is why they change costumes and identities and this and that for characters, is because now there's more IP involved that they own, and they can potentially market it in some other form somewhere down the road. So they're treating it more like if you play a video game and you get a new skin for a character, they're treating it more like that. But the thing is that these are characters that they've been around for decades. People are in love with these characters. They care about these characters. They've meant something to them. It's like changing your best friend. And all of a sudden the next day you're like, wait, who are you? And they're like, oh yeah, remember me? I'm your best friend. And you're like, you're not my best friend. Every single thing is this weird invasion of the body snatchers kind of thing for these characters that people are attached to. And if anything too, when you think about it, right? The reason you would buy a Batman shirt or a Spider-Man, whatever, or a Superman, you know, the reason that logo means something to you, or you would have any of the art that I'm seeing, both of you guys have, that those characters where you're like, I'll hang this up on the wall, you know, I'll buy this shirt, whatever. The reason you do that is because it means something to you.
Right.
If you're just going to say that, oh, this is just anything, it's just an empty vessel, you know, it's just whatever. We'll replace it with, you know, just take out the inner guts and it's something else now. And, you know, it still looks the same, but it's not the same. People will still like it. No, absolutely not. It's the same thing with sports teams and the fans there. You know, they root for their teams because their teams mean something to them. The logo means something. The jersey means something to them. They have an emotional attachment and a connection to it. So looking at fictional characters and just kind of, and it drives me up the wall when I see creators also say, oh, well, don't you know, it's all just fake. It's all just fake. I don't understand. I want to say, you know what? Get the hell out of this industry. You're not a creator. You're a destroyer. Like, what are you doing? You don't understand why people love fictional characters and why. Of course they know it's not real. Why are you being an idiot? And also, would you tell that to because all of us fall in love with a lot of the times with these characters when we're kids. Would you actually go up to a little kid, you know, because that's what you're doing when you go up to a fan and you say, hey, this character is just fake. Who cares if I mess with it? You know, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Would you go up to like that little 6-year-old kid that first discovered that character and pretended to be that character or whatever and say, hey, don't you know that's just some stupid thing? It's just fake. Why are you into it so much? Why do you care? Why are you being a bully? You're being a bully at that point.
Right, yeah.
It's so strange. And if anything, all of these fictional things, they speak to the child within all of us that still believes in wonder and hope and all these other things. Why do you want to squash that in people? I don't understand.
Wait,
he's a kid. I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, but he was a kid. He was a kid from Queens. Like, I'm from North Jersey, so like that meant something to me. Like, you know, like Matt Murdock was from Hell's Kitchen. Like, Manhattan is my city, and it's just more real in that aspect to like a 6-year-old.
Yeah,
And now
and
it's
I'd like to see them create. That's what they say. Well, we need more characters for these people too, or these people that are now starting to get into comics or whatever. Great,
Right,
yeah, we
yeah.
do absolutely. But that doesn't mean that it's at the expense of the ones that people already know and love. And if anything, it's stupid. It's bad business. First of all,
true.
to basically destroy IP that you put so much time and money and energy and effort into building up. But it's also just it's a complete lack of respect for the reader and for the creators who made those characters what they were and made them so beloved. You can still have those characters around. They don't take away from anyone new. I don't understand that mentality where they feel like they have to tear down what was there in order to build up something new. They should all be building up together.
Facts.
That was gonna be my point, is that I get into conversations with people. I try not to be public conversations because I hate it when people argue on social media or whatever. But anytime there's a big change where, let's say they want to change the gender of a character or a race of a character, and then you have a fan base, a portion of the fan base that's upset because their character that they love and they're following is being changed and it's not who they love anymore. And then you got another fan base that wants to do the politically polarized aspect of, like, you don't like it because it's a woman, and, you're a racist and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it's like, you got to understand, just like what you said, that there's a deep rooted love and attraction to these characters that you have built over years and years and years. And you are invested in what happens with that character. So when a creator comes out and it has nothing to do with the creation of that character, they're taking over a book and they decide they want to change it for whatever reason. And then they want to get upset because the fan base is upset. And then they attack the fan base instead of trying to fix the issue. Like, well, why are you guys upset? Well, this is why you're upset. Yeah, maybe instead of killing this character or throwing this character away so we can bring this brand new character in that's going to appease whoever we think it's going to appease, let's just bring this character alongside your classic character, and we're going to have them have adventures together, and we're going to build this character up, and we're going to continue the story, and it pleases everybody. But most people don't want to do that. They just want one or the other. It's like, you got to kill this one so that this guy can thrive, so we can have some kind of hooray us, we changed the world by doing this to this beloved character.
And then you get the other fact of it too, where if you've been reading comics long enough, you know that they're going to bring that other character back again, and usually in time for the video game or the movie or whatever it is. So it's a big buzz, and eventually you're like, you know what, this is insulting as just now a customer. So now as a reader, you've offended me because you don't respect the fact that your readers love these characters and you're doing them wrong. But you're also disrespecting and insulting us as customers because you just think like, we don't see this coming already. So again, you lose people when you do that. These things mean something. They have to have some kind of substance behind it, some kind of motivation. And the thing is, we're not saying, and I don't say we, meaning I think everyone, but I think I'm seeing most fans, and I still consider myself a fan largely of comics too. We're not saying, don't have anything bad happen to characters or no changes to any kinds of characters or whatever. Some of the best things in a lot of these stories will become something bad happen. If Gwen Stacy never dies, if Jason Todd never dies, those kinds of things, you don't have those different events that trickle down and affect that character. So it's not that. It's the effect of change for the sake of change, and it turns into a very gimmicky thing when they do it the way that they currently do it, and it's a disservice to their old and their new audience. And what happens now when the new audience that's so adamant about, no, change it to that, it's about time we had a character like this. Well, the pendulum's going to swing in 10 or 20 years, maybe sooner, and that character is going to get changed to something else. And you're going to not be too pleased about it. And every one of us is going to go, well, we told you.
Right.
I don't want to see anyone's character. I don't want to see Sunfire turn into a white guy. I don't want to see Storm become Spanish. I don't want to see, what I mean? Like, I want them to say who they are. I love who they are. Again, it's because they treat it as if these are real people. And if you treat these fictional characters like they are real people, that's when you develop that connection. And that's when you have people who care. If you don't want your readers to care about your characters, you're not going to be in business for much longer.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're not going to sell books that way, you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you take a look at some of the way the industry is, I mean, it's a glaring example of.
And that's what I love so much, honestly, about being a creator-owned publisher, is that the creators, they care so much about their characters. Think of it in terms of, especially when you have creator-owned, think of it that every single book at Alterna, it's like getting in on Stan and Jack and Steve and Joe and everybody else's work, you know, right from the get-go. That's incredible. And we're seeing, that's why I love seeing so many indie creators too, having so many books doing so well right now. It's the best time to be an indie reader and an indie creator because of that. It's all these people that are creating what they want to create, the way they want to create it. It's not this, you know, striving to be the cover band your whole life. It's actually people that want to make their own things and want to, you know, read about their original characters that they've made, that they literally gave birth to just out of their imagination. And here they are now. They weren't there before, and now here they are. That's an amazing thing to see. So I love being, it gets me inspired, it gets me excited, it gets me caring about their characters too. It's something that, being a publisher at Alterna, I'm not just a publisher, I'm a fan. Seeing all these characters come through, seeing all these creators working on something that's brand new. Every single issue that comes out is adding to the mythos of the worlds that they're creating.
Right.
And then, you know, maybe you look back 10 years from now, some of these guys, they don't see it now, but I've been doing this for 14 years. So I've seen some of these books come along, some of these things come far enough where you're not aware, you know, maybe you're creating 4 or 5 issues a year, but maybe in 10 years, now you've got 30 or 40 issues. You've got all these stories, all these things you've done, all these people that have read and loved your book. That's a crazy, wild thing to have happen. You know, it wasn't there before. Now it is. It's inspiring. So yeah, these guys, they inspire me.
Yeah, I was going to use that to circle back around to Alterna and creative owned books. I just like to rant about the industry every once in a while, but I think that's, you know, that's the cool thing about the creator owned books, is because that's where the passion is right now, like you were saying, because they are your characters and you get to play with them the way you want. And I think the cool thing about whether it's crowdfunded or just independent publishing or Alterna or whatever, is that you can have a better relationship with the fans that buy your book. So you can also listen to the fans and what do they like about their book, you know, and you can kind of give the fans what they want instead of dictating to the fans what they should want. And I think that creates a great relationship between buyer and creator, and the characters right there in the middle, the best it probably can be, you know. And I think that's what's awesome about the indie scene right now. And that's what gets me excited about putting a book out. Sean, the same way, you know.
Yeah, everyone is kind of invested in the same kind of way. We just have different roles that we're playing. You know, I think for a very long time, we saw this, I'm on this side of the table, you're on that side of the table. You know, I'm the creator, you're the reader. And then that mentality kind of really seeped in a really ugly way onto social media in some ways. People that would have, and of course, some of my favorite parts, this is what's so ironic, some of my favorite parts reading comics when I was a kid was looking at the letters pages too, and seeing the interaction between reader and, you know, whoever, the editor, the creator, something like that. But now we have this direct interaction. It should all be like the letters pages, but it's not. And in some cases, it's really just downright awful. And I've seen over the years, I've seen people say just very simple things, very simple criticisms about, and not even sometimes about someone's skill, but just more about the direction that the story is going. And, you know, and why are you doing, I love that character, why are you doing that to it, you know? And instead of the creator or whoever being like, hey, you know, have we ever done you wrong before? Just stick with us. I think you'll like it. I think you'll like the way the story goes. Instead of just a simple kind of, you know, let's engage in a conversation together, it turns into this really ugly event. And those things have snowballed over the years for some people. It's very strange. So again, it's something where unfortunately I feel like there's been a lot of missteps throughout a lot of the things that have been happening in the comics industry that have led to what is currently going on. But I think a lot of publishers, a lot of creators are seeing these sorts of things. They're course correcting. They're doing a good job. A lot of the indie people right now, even people within Comicsgate and stuff like that, they're really saying, you know, I know what it's like because I was on that end too of being told off by one of my favorite creators. I'm not going to do that to the readers that I have. So all these kinds of things that are moving forward, it's nice to see. And I think that as the future unfolds, I think the more and more we get books out there, the more that a lot of these new creators become seasoned veterans and pros themselves. They're going to become better and better at doing this kind of thing too, and become not just creators, but entrepreneurs, which I think is a very, very important part. Otherwise, I don't see comics surviving much longer. But I think if they keep going the way that things are going with the indie scene, at least, I think comics are going to be alive and well. But I don't know about the mainstream because there's so many things going on where even the creators there, it just feels like they're kind of going through the motions sometime because there's other things happening that you're not aware of, or there's corporate structures involved, or, you know, a lot of the things that have occurred with DC this past year. It's the culmination of a lot of things, but also the fact that AT&T is now the ones that pull the strings.
Right.
So it's all kinds of stuff, but unfortunately, you know, it is the way it is. I think comic shops need to assess the situation too and realize, look, we have to get back to what made us thrive, which was more being a back issue collectible store, as opposed to just everything's a pre-order, everything's always the new stuff, everything's just, you know, get mountains and mountains of something because of the variant took however many issues to get this, and you know, it has to become a let's have common sense approaches to getting comics into the hands of readers. And that has to be the thought first and foremost. The whole let's cater to the collector market kind of mentality. The collectors are always going to be there. And that's the most ironic part, is that by creating really good stories, that's how we got a collector's market to begin with. It wasn't through variants and gimmicks and all this other stuff. It was through making stories that had things that happened.
I mean, one of my favorite things as a kid was going to the comic store and going to the back issues, because I lived in the back issues for years before I consistently collected new issues, because I was catching up on the character. I was getting into, like you said, like the X-Men or something, and I wanted to see what it was all about. And you hit the back bin or the back issue bin, and you could just flip through so many comics, and that was exciting because just by the covers alone, you're just like, oh, that's so cool, you know. I mean, like, what's going on? You can just see the stories building and building. And now, I mean, the store I have in town, the back issue bin is so small compared to what it was when I was a kid. And a lot of times that's disappointing because I can't find anything. I have to go online to, you know, get something ordered, go to eBay or, you know, find something that way. And it's just, you look at the new books and it's just littered with a bunch of shit that I really don't care about anymore because of the way the industry is. And I think that's one of the things that excites me about small press or indie, is the excitement and the fun of comics is there right now, where I will follow certain artists because I'll always support the guys that I have come up loving and they're still doing their job. I'll give them my money to support their living. But the fun, the passion is not in the big three. I mean, it's really not in the big three right now, in my opinion. You know, you go to the indie books, Alterna, you know, like I see all these different small press books, and that there's fun, there's cool characters, you know, there's stories that are trying to break out and do something without chains of a political, you know, line or trying to check certain boxes or whatever. You know, it's just like, we're putting out a story, we think it's going to be good, we think you're going to love it, and take the ride with us. You know, that's what I love about it.
There's an energy there. There's an excitement. There's an unpredictability, you know, as opposed to a lot of the times with so many of these other books from especially the corporate publishers. It just feels like they're kind of putting the books out and making sure that they're there and they're there in abundance so that other books can't grow in their place. Like they don't want to have another Ninja Turtles on their hands. They don't want to have a Spawn or a Walker on their hands. They want to make sure that they're taking up the shelf space for that potential hit that they have to compete with. And not that they have to compete with them as a comic, but that they might have to compete with them as a film or a toy or merchandise or T-shirts or anything like that. That's the largest reason you see so much flooding the shelves that's occurred. That's honestly, it's killed the industry. We looked at the 90s and said, oh, all the gimmicks and everything else and this and that really, it took advantage of the collector's market and the bubble burst. And then now, honestly, now we have, to me, when I go into a shop, I see more gimmicks on the shelf than ever before. The 90s looked like, whatever, there's nothing.
Absolutely.
At least they were trying something in the 90s. It felt like, it was a new thing to do. It was kind of like, oh, we discovered holograms. Let's make hologram covers. We discovered chromium covers. Let's do that. It felt like they were trying stuff as opposed
new
to
shit.
Yeah, or even new characters, this crazy new character that's like this and that and whatever, they were trying something. But with this kind of new mentality, it's not like it's got that same energy behind it. It feels like this very cold and lifeless and soulless kind of corporate thing. And that's not comics. Comics inherently have always been like this counterculture kind of entertainment. That's what's made them always, when they were successful, that's what made them so successful, is because of the fact that they offered something that was edgier than what you could get on TV or movies or whatever. But so many of these comics nowadays, and unfortunately a lot of the ones that aren't even the big two, they feel like they're designing their comics, their characters, their settings with a small budget for a show or a film. So the scenes aren't, they're not Kirby-esque, that's for sure. They're not outlandish. They're not impossible. They're not fantastic. The characters, they're very grounded to the point that they're mundane almost sometimes.
Right. Absolutely.
They're completely just unrecognizable as comic characters. And not to say that comic characters have to be campy and over the top and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't... I don't know if this is the way that you guys have felt, but this is how I felt over the past couple of years. Comics will find one kind of thing that's working, and then they'll do pedal to the metal, just press it to the floor the whole way. We got to go in that direction. So if ultra violent kind of grim heroes, anti-heroes are working, everything's got to get dark. Everyone's got to get brooding. If the all ages stuff is more appropriate, or the young adult audience is taking off, kind of like the way things are now, where they look at Scholastic and go, hey, we got to make more things like what Scholastic is putting out so we can get some of that. The industry, the publisher shifts largely in that direction. Instead of just saying, we'll make a couple books that are like that, and we'll just keep doing what we're doing with the other ones, they go, no, the whole thing, just tilt it the whole way. It's maddening to see. Maddening. And that's a lot of what we're seeing, I think, right now, where people go, these are unrecognizable to me as a fan. The reason I love this character is because this character is so unique. It is this thing. Now, when this thing is literally just like everything else, it's not unique anymore. And then that thing, because they do this every time. They did it with Wolverine, Harley Quinn, all these kinds of big characters, right? They become every character. Or even like the Batman Superman movie. Superman's really dark. He's brooding almost. So what do we do to make Batman darker? He's practically a homicidal maniac. That light and dark kind of pairing of Batman Superman is great. It's that interaction is what made them so special. So now when you kind of have these characters, everything's just dark and gritty, and everyone's miserable all the time. These superheroes are more miserable than the villains. It turns into this really weird kind of, well, what am I exactly watching anymore? Is this a hero, or is this just like villains with more villains? Who wants more villains? Me. Everyone's apparently saying that, but no one is. To see them say like, oh, we need a dark Superman. We need a brooding, grim Superman. We can't have a happy Superman. We can't have someone like a Christopher Reeve Superman. What are you talking about? We live in times right now where people would love to see someone like a Christopher Reeve on screen. I think people would just weep I think it would just be
Right.
like giving them that inspiration and that hope, and filling them with like an actual sense of, oh, things could work out. Good could prevail. People need messages like that, especially the darker it gets,
Yeah.
the more grim it feels like the world gets. If anything, in really good times, in times where it seems like it's not so bad, that's when people really like to see dark stories and darker heroes. That's
Yeah.
why they were so popular when they were popular.
Yep.
But it's strange. The comic industry, they always seem to zig when they should zag.
Or right now, like they will oversaturate a character. I mean, you brought up Harley Quinn. She becomes a little bit popular. They get her on the movie screen. Now she's a hit for young women or whatever you want to say. Now DC has to have Harley Quinn in every single book, doing all sorts of things that were never really her character. So you go beyond her character so you can appease whatever crowd that you're trying to bring in, and then it's just like boom, 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 all over the place. And it's just like, I'm sick of it. Like, I like the character, but I'm so sick of it. Same thing with the Joker. I like the Joker, but I'm so fucking sick of seeing the Joker lately, because that's all you've seen since like Dark Knight Return, or the Dark Knight, when it came out in 2000, whatever year that was. And like, I feel like it's just been nonstop Joker for the last 15 years. Same thing with Batman, like, and circling around to the creator-owned books is, you don't have to worry about oversaturating that, because you're telling the most time a story about one character, or if you got a group of characters, whatever. But you're focusing on them and you're building that character. You're not taking away some other character's spotlight and growth because you just have to saturate your book with this character. It's just, I feel like that's a downward spiral for the industry. Marvel does it too with, Venom is just everywhere. I love Venom, but I fucking sick and tired of seeing him.
He can relax. Yeah, Venom can relax.
Yeah, like they can all just relax for a little bit and develop some of these other characters that are cool. Like, I want to see where they go. And with smaller presses and indie books, you can do that, and it's nice.
Well, with Venom, it's so weird. It feels like you get a symbiote and you get a symbiote. It's like Oprah writing the book. Everyone gets a symbiote. Look under your chair. There's a symbiote. Everybody, you get to be a Venom. It's so weird.
It's like Oprah's plotting it out. It's like, you get one.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
But yeah, Harley Quinn was great. I loved Harley Quinn, especially obviously, created on the animated series, basically.
Mm-hmm.
She was great, and it offered a complementary piece to the Joker, someone that he could actually play off of as well, without it just being like in the 66 series, without it just being like henchman, whoever,
Right.
and so it offered like to show also a different side of the Joker, and gave him a couple of layers to his character too, while building up another character. I mean, there's another example of a way to really introduce a new character and do it right. It's funny because episodically, that's what comics are. They are basically just one episode at a time, one issue at a time. But for some reason, the television shows have really nailed it. But the comics really forgot what that's kind of like. I mean, there's no comic fan I know today that's like, oh, Batman the animated series, whatever, that's crap. Who likes it? Every comic fan I know they love the show, and it's because of that episodic nature. You already know who Batman is. You already know about these characters. For some reason, when it comes to the commercialization of a lot of these things, when it comes to the animated shows, especially when they think that they're being geared towards kids, they think that, oh, we'll just dive right in. We don't need to explain the origins. We just need to have the characters play out, and the kids will get it. They really don't think much of adults then, because it's origin after origin after origin story for the films, almost as if well, if it's getting rebooted, what's happening. Origin movie. We're going to have to see Peter Parker cry about Uncle Ben. We're going to have to see Bruce Wayne mourn the death of his parents. They don't even really touch upon that in the Batman 66 series. And then on the animated series, it takes a while for them to really get to the dark nature of what made Batman Batman. It's very odd. Again, comics kind of play things in such a strange way, and the films themselves are starting to mirror the worst aspects I find about the comics, where when they get rebooted or something else happens or whatever, they have to go back to the start. They have to start telling the tale like no one knows about any of this, and it's turning into this everything must lead into an event. It's nice to see DC kind of try to do this thing in the films where they're kind of more onto themselves. But even their own universe, it got so messed up because of the fact that they just kind of rushed into that to compete against Marvel. And then Marvel's universe, I feel like they kind of threw everything they could throw at it. And now I don't know where they go from there. And I don't know what they're going to do after that. And the whole comic industry has kind of, they haven't really benefited so much from the success of the films. But if those films are not successful, I wonder, does that help the comic industry or does it deliver a killing blow to the comic industry? So it's a really weird position, I think, right now. And that's why I'd love to see stores in particular start shifting focus more towards the indies, start putting focus towards the fact that their stores shouldn't just be comics equals superheroes. Put where to find books on genre, where to find books based on all these different types of things, so someone can go in there maybe never having read comics before and have the same experience like when they're looking for a film on Netflix. They might not know what horror movies are out, but they know they like horror, so they'll go look in the horror section.
Hey, Rick.
Oh, Rick, hey, what's up? But so I'd love to see stores kind of start shifting towards things like that, because then I think they'll be in a better position to survive. And I think publishers, like we said before, they're going to have to start understanding they got to start branching out. They have to start focusing their product lines, and they have to start understanding, look, maybe we have to actually get directly to the readers, to the retailers, because the system's in place. At a moment's notice, if something goes wrong, that's it. I mean, what if Diamond doesn't necessarily come back from what is going on right now, which they're not in the greatest position from all signs. Things aren't necessarily getting better. And it's a scary thing to see that, well, what if they kind of go through again what recently happened this year? I don't think any publisher should feel safe right now in the current distribution system. I think this year offered a glimpse of what it's like when the rug gets pulled out from under you and you depended upon one distributor for your whole business. No publisher should be putting themselves in that position. So it'd be great to see them take kind of a lesson, I guess, from the indies, but we'll see. I think some of them will. I think the ones that move forward and succeed, I think they will learn a lot from the crowdfunding indies that are being so entrepreneurial right now. Otherwise, I don't see a bright future for comics other than the indies that are taking it directly to the readers.
Yeah, I mean, thank God for the indies right now. I mean, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
I want to segue from that, and I want to talk a little bit about the Kickstarter you got going on right now. Peter, weird question: do you sell comics in sheets. Gas stations? We used to. We stopped doing that. We had them selling from July 2019 to November 2019. Then we pulled out a newsstand because newsstands were just. If you think the comic industry is a mess at this point, the newsstand industry is even worse. It's no accountability, full returnability. So, oh, nice.
Yeah, no one cares at all. We were getting back reports of negative return rates because they would be scanning other books instead of the right books. So it'd be like, oh, we sent them 2,000 units. How come they're reporting 2,100 returns? That's impossible. It's because they weren't scanning books properly. We found people were finding our comics with the newspapers and the magazines instead of with other comics in some of the stores. And then even stores like Barnes & Noble, I mean, they've had 5 or 6 CEOs in just as many years. So every single time there's someone that new comes along, they start assessing, well, this doesn't work and that doesn't work. And because comics are considered periodicals still on that market, they look at it and go, oh, well, they're kind of flailing and failing just as much as newspapers and magazines. So why should we carry comics? But Comics have way more longevity than a newspaper or a magazine. So it's unfortunate,
that's for sure.
That's just the way it is.
I wanted to bring up there we go. So you got a Kickstarter going on right now.
Indiegogo.
Can't you read, Joe? Put your bifocals on. No, I'm kidding.
I'm getting old, man. Well, I gotta go to like different screens here. You know, you get to see what's pulled up. I gotta jump back and forth, and
you do a tremendous job.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you got 28,642 raised on a 15,000 fixed goal. Got 22 days left with 357 backers. And could you tell us a little bit about what this Kickstarter is all about and why should we get it?
Sure. So a lot of the things you see here were because the readers over the years have demanded them. So blank variants, they wanted more of those. They wanted sketch covers. They wanted sketches from the artists. They wanted reprints to be made available because a lot of these issues were sold out. We were putting out Alterna Giants. So I thought that those, and the Giants are basically like trades of a certain miniseries or a series. I thought that would have been fine. I thought they would have just been, okay with it. But they weren't. They wanted the single issues and they wanted the Giants. So I said, okay, well, we got to go back to print. I don't know how and when we could do that, but we got to work it in at some point. So this is how we're working in all that stuff. We put out collector cases a few months ago. Nice. They have like front and side pocket sleeves. As soon as we put those out, people said, oh, can you make art based on the Alterna books? And this way we can actually customize our cases. Okay, so we did that too, and we have that on here now. The best perk on this campaign to get is probably the $99 featured perk, which you get a collector case. You get all of the collector case inserts. So it's 17 front pocket inserts, 34 side pocket inserts. You get 32 comics with it. It started off with 15, but we've unlocked 17 more issues.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, so you get 32 comics with it, and then you get 19 blank variants too. So if you're an artist or you want to commission an artist to draw something on those, you could do that. And now we've got all kinds of other unlockables and whatnot, pins, magnets, stickers. We've got a patch available on the site, too, that commemorates the 15 years of Alterna, because by the time they get the patch, it'll be 2021. So that'll be our 15th year.
Nice.
Yeah, all kinds of great things. Even, the All 10 box set, that's 10 cases. So you would get 10 collector cases, and then you get these exclusive designs that go in the side pockets and form the Alterna Comics logo just right across it, like a nice big box set looking thing. Yeah.
That was a sweet looking.
But yeah, so we got t-shirts on there, hoodies. We've got a bunch of hats back in stock. People have been asking about those. So all kinds of different things the readers have been requesting over the years. We've got that on the campaign. And I'm just grateful that people are actually supporting it because we named it because you demanded it. And imagine if only 5 people supported this campaign. What an embarrassment that would have been.
No, yeah, I mean, it's... again, that goes back to the relationship between, the publisher and the fans, the creators and the fans, and why indie and crowdfunding are so successful a lot of times, because we as fans or whoever want to support a project, you actually have a hand in saying like, hey, I helped this project come to light, so you have a little bit more of an investment in it yourself when you support these guys and see it actually come to fruition. You have it in your hands because you know that you were part of that. I think it's kind of a special thing that people who don't understand the whole crowdfunding thing, they just don't understand why you would pay a little bit more for a book that you can go buy $5, buy another book at a comic book store. And it's like, well, it's a little bit more than that. I'm like, you are actually a part of the creation of something that is, pretty cool and unique.
Yeah. Yeah. And all I could think too, every time I see this crowdfunder in particular, is that about 10 years ago we had something on Indiegogo and Kickstarter because we were almost bankrupt, almost on the ropes.
Oh wow.
The credit crunch really took a big hit on us, and in an industry where you have to make product first and then you wait sometimes up to 6 months to get paid for it. 6 months was just too many months to accrue month over month, debt, basically getting things out there. So all at the time that we needed to just survive was like maybe $2,000 or so. And we managed to raise around that much between people supporting the campaign and then supporting us on buying books on the side directly from us. But when I look at that now and I'm thinking, wow, all we needed was like $2,000 at the time. $2,000 prevented us from basically, you know, saying, do we continue or do we not? And then something like this, where 10 years later, we're raising, you know, almost $30,000 on a campaign. I'm very humbled by it. The readers have been great to us, and they've been so supportive over the years, and they know how much they mean to me, and I'm glad that they support us and the creators here.
I missed the a little bit of the comments, but Rick brought up something, and that's why I stopped on this page. He said, Sean, have you ever seen any of Pete's drawings? A man can draw, and I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I was gonna say you are stupidly talented. Like you're like, oh, this
yeah, dude,
this is a quick draw. I'm like, that's quick. I'm like, holy shit, like ridiculous.
Yeah, dude, I really did. I was looking at your site the other day on Facebook and just going through trying to find pictures when I was creating the show banner, and I didn't even know you drew. And I came across some of these, and I was like, damn, man, like that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I still have a couple drawings here from the other night when I was on Ethan's art stream. These are going to get sent out in a day or two. Did you want to take a look at them?
Yeah, sure. Hold them up.
Yeah, sure. So this one sold. This was a Wolverine.
Oh man, dude, that's so sweet.
So
I love your style, dude. It's fucking
it's like awesome.
And then this one sold as well. It was just a zombie on a Walking Dead cover.
Oh, nice. Wow. That's gnarly.
How do that? Yeah, that is. Man, yeah, you're talented, man. Have you ever done a book? You plan on doing a book yourself? Or you just,
Well, I've written a book, and then I did everything but pencil it, and it was called The Chair. So that book came out years ago.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
That's like a psychological horror thriller that takes place on death row. Actually, was adapted to a film. It's Roddy Piper's last feature film before he passed away. Also.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there's Roddy right there. Great guy. Awesome. Absolutely great.
I'm gonna have to try to find that.
Yeah, it's on Amazon right now. It's on, I think, Tubi TV, a couple other sites too that you can actually stream the movie if you want to check it out.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
The book is better though, but you could check out the movie.
Right. Well, everybody likes Piper. Yeah, you got it.
He's great in it though. He's fantastic in it. Worth the view alone just for him.
Have you ever considered drawing your own book? Just if time.
At this point, I just like to do sketches or commissions when I can. I don't try to fall in love with the aspect of ever making a book on my own because it's just not a possibility. And I'm sure that by the time I have enough time to make it a possibility, I'm going to have all kinds of rheumatoid arthritis and whatnot. So it's going to just be me, at 80 years old going, there was time now.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, I wanted to bring that up because before Rick commented, I was going to highlight because I don't know if you get enough credit, or at least I don't know if you do, but I haven't given you enough credit yet for your artistic abilities, and then I just want to let you know you got some fucking badass art.
Well, thank you, appreciate it.
One thing I wanted to bring up too about the whole Alterna line is we were talking about every book is in its kind of its own little universe and nothing crosses over, and you have so many different genres. And I think just looking at this Kickstarter and looking at a lot of the books
Indiegogo, you dildo.
I'm sorry, dude. You know what it is? We just had Murad on yesterday, and he was doing a Kickstarter, so I'm just doing the whole Kickstarter stuff.
Well, Kickstarter's become kind of like, give me a Kleenex, Xerox this, that kind of a thing.
I just want to say, I'm a big supporter of Indiegogo. That's where my book is going to go. Blah blah blah. I just like yesterday's stream is still in my head. I'm sorry. I get to do multiple things at once, Sean. You get to sit there and look pretty. Goddamn. Anyway, my point was, this is a great example of the different genres you guys have, or that you put out in your books. And if you just look at, you got some creepy looking shit, some fun looking shit. It's just a wide variety of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we have books that are great for readers of all ages, and truly all ages too. They're not just appropriate for kids, but adults love them. We've got books that are superhero, sci-fi, horror, fantasy, drama, thrillers, all kinds of stuff. we put out all kinds of books, and that's what I think makes Alterna so different and so great too. A lot of these publishers now, especially the indie ones, they'll go, oh well, we just really put out horror, or we just really want to focus on sci-fi, or we want to have our superhero universe. At Alterna, I'm thinking I want to publish any kind of story that I just think is great, that I love, that any story that comes our way in a submission, and I go, I don't want to buy this with some other publisher's logo at the top. I want my logo there.
Right.
Any book that comes along like that, we put out. So it's a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, man. It's funny because I knew you guys that you put out. I keep saying you guys. I knew you put out a lot of books, but like the more I actually dive into it, I didn't realize how many books.
It's a huge catalog.
Yeah, like how big is the guy? Your God, mother.
The current line that's still continuing, and the books that are coming out that are new that haven't come out just yet. I'd say maybe there's 20 to 22 titles, and then the ones that, I mean, if I talk about every single thing that we've put out since we started, I'd say it's easily over 300 books. So, nice. And then if I break that down, break that down further into single issues, I'm talking about now close to 500-600 different things that have Alterna on it at this point. So it's, like I said, it's been pretty crazy.
Mike McMahon said something about Eden a little bit earlier in the stream when I brought it up. So, and that's one thing I want to bring up, just going through this website. And again, I touched on it earlier, but the professionalism on these books is top notch. Like, the art looks great, the characters look good. I mean, the logos, everything that goes into the book just looks really, really good. The production is great.
Yeah, it's probably the most fun that I have on each book, is getting able to, actually lay out different elements and all that kind of stuff. I joke with the readers a lot of the times that I'm just the barcode artist.
Yeah.
One of the readers, he actually was like, do you actually put each line there individually? I'm like, no, we have a barcode. We do have a barcode generator. I don't advise anyone just saying, hey, I'll just make my own barcode and just put random lines. They mean something. They need to be read. But I just mean more like I lay out the logo. I'll change up the colors or the placement or make the tagline on the book. Things like that it's just these little kind of dumb things, I guess, but they mean a lot though, because if any little thing isn't right with the book, it kind of looks off. It looks kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
What's your typical schedule like? Because you just seem like you're always busy. Do you sleep? Like,
I don't necessarily sleep so much as I pass out on the couch. But I work maybe about 100 hours a week or so, and I'd say you get up around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Answer emails, do a lot of different things with the books, promotional stuff, coordinate all kinds of whatever is going on with creators, and always even I was a little bit late today because there's always a different fire to put out. But probably don't stop working till maybe like 2 a.m. And then by the time I'm settled down, it's like 4 a.m. By the time I sleep, it's maybe 5 or 6 a.m. So then I get up at 10 and the day starts all over again.
That's passion. That is fucking passion.
I was going to say.
That's awesome. The Chair is a great kid's book.
The Chair is a great kid's book, yes.
According to Wednesday Addams, that's great. She would love it.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to touch on before, and this has been a really awesome conversation so far, so thank you so much for coming on.
Very inspiring.
We usually don't ask our guests how much time they have to give to us. We just talk until somebody's bored. But I was wondering, I wanted to touch a little bit on cancel culture a little bit when it comes to the industry, because I know that there's a lot of backlash, especially with the Comicsgate community. And I think if anybody knows us, they know that we're big supporters of the Comicsgate community, regardless of what anybody wants to think. And just in general with indies, because everything's been so politicized. But my question is, advice that you might give to anybody that's trying to make it on their own and encounters illegitimate, in the most cases, cancel culture backlash from the stupid fucktards on social media that just want to attack you for no reason. Because I know you've had to go through it yourself, and it's not easy. What advice would you give to creators that are facing that?
Yeah, when you're in the thick of it, it's very confusing. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It wasn't so much the people coming at me that were just, I don't know who they are, and just had something to chime in about and say everyone's got an opinion about everything. So that's a given. If you're going to be not just, and I hate to say it's just, you have to have a thick skin if you're going to be a creator. You have to have a thick skin in life, just kind of in general. But especially though, if you're going to be a creative person, you're going to put your work out there to the world. You have to have a thick skin. So that kind of thing, and getting criticism or even like name calling, I've gotten death threats over the years. That stuff is nothing new. So
Ridiculous.
I'm that kind of stuff. When you reject like 100 submissions a month for like 8 years, you don't make many friends. So I'm used to the occasional, someone wants to track me down at a convention and give me a hard time. That's fine. That didn't really bother me. What bothered me was the people that I worked with that I knew for years, in some cases for up to 10 years. Those people believing the random whatever off the internet. That's what really got to me. And the couple of dozens of people that was, and whether they legitimately believed it or they were scared that the same kind of crowd would turn on them if they didn't come at me or speak up about me or turn on me or whatever. I think that kind of thing is difficult to deal with. I don't have the right answer for that, other than to say that there's always going to be, no matter what, there's always going to be people that do know you and care about you, and aren't going to be people that turn on you. So try to focus more on them. It's gonna, of course, it's gonna sting. It's gonna hurt when people you're close to, and all of a sudden you think, wow, I guess we were never really that close. You never really did know me, or we never really were friends. That kind of thing is difficult to deal with, but don't focus on the negative when it comes your way. But as far as if you're lucky enough to not have that experience, and people that you're close to stick by your side, just realize that in a day, those people latch on to something else. They go, they're literally the dog chasing a car. So they'll be upset with you. They'll say whatever against you, or whatever it is you're doing. And, but then tomorrow it's someone else. And the next day after that, it's something else and someone else. And it's so on and so forth. So don't try to think, oh, this is the end of the world for me. This is it. That's it. It's over. It's, because especially that was the mindset. But when I went through it, was very new at the time that's what people could do, especially people that you would think, I thought we were friends. You would not think that they would do those kinds of things to you. So it did hit me really hard at the time. But if it wasn't for the people in my life who were very supportive and who were there for me, if it wasn't for my wife, if it wasn't for people that I actually considered friends and loved ones for real, at this point especially, it really brought out, that was the good part about it. It brought out the people who really truly were on my side and understood and cared about me. And it kind of showed some of the people who just wanted to use or hang on or, kind of suck up until maybe I gave them an opportunity or something like that. And anyone that knows me knows that I don't care who you know in this industry. I don't care if you know my family or whoever. It doesn't mean I'm going to publish your book.
Right.
The book has to be good. You have to know what you're doing. You have to appreciate the readers that come your way. You have to be ready to accept the praise and the criticism, and don't live and die by it either. Because if you just believe every kind of praise that comes your way and think, oh, look, everyone says I'm great, I must be great. Or if you go, hey, everyone's hating on my book, I guess it must stink. You have to have some kind of sense of self, some kind of confidence in your work. And also at the same time, have that other side of the humility side where you're honest with your work and your shortcomings. And that Even if you make something today, like even the pieces that you guys are saying, oh, these are great. That's great. You're an awesome artist. I sit there and I go, okay, I accept that, but I also know what I would change now looking at those.
Right.
Even the
for
pieces
sure.
I made yesterday. But you'd be surprised. There's some creators that they don't have that, so they get very offended by it. They lash out. Because it's to me, being an artist is all about the journey. It's not about the destination. So you have to keep on looking forward to, well, what's the next thing that I do? How can I grow? How can I learn? How can I improve upon what came before? And a lot of artists do have that. They're like that. But there's some that aren't, and they do lash out. So when it comes to criticism and praise and all that kind of stuff, again, you have to have the right head on your shoulders to deal with that stuff. But when it comes to cancel culture and that kind of thing, really just take a step away, put the phone down or get off the computer or whatever, because that's usually where this kind of stuff occurs. Don't give them any power. Don't give an inch. Don't give an inch. Because if you're making something, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're making a book that your main character is a white male, or you have a woman in the book that, you know, she's sexy or something like that or whatever, and people are coming at you for those things. That's ridiculous. It's people just being upset. They're upset all the time. They're finding something else to be upset about. That's just how it is. It's today it's you, tomorrow it's someone else. Don't give it any kind of power. And that's the thing I find sometimes a lot of people do is they start going, oh no, I didn't mean to offend you. These people aren't offended. They're just angry. They're angry. They're upset with themselves. They're jealous usually because they can't do what you're doing. And they're also upset because they wish they could do what you're doing and make what they want to make. And since they can't, they want to tell you what to make. So I've never been the kind of person that, especially as a creative person, I don't sit there and go, oh, well, you know, look at what, because you can comment, like we've commented today about the companies and what they've done and the characters and this and that. But at the same time, I'm not going to take out, you know, and write a letter to them and say, well, why don't you change the characters to the characters I want you to change them to and this and that. I'll just go, no, I'm going to make my own. I'll make my own. Right. That's it. A lot of people will do that. They'll say, instead of complaining about it in that aspect, they'll go, you know what, I voiced my opinion, now I'm going to create my own, or I'm going to go find something that's like that and support that. Because I find that a lot of what we see nowadays, a lot of it is cancel culture based in ignorance. It's based in people that want to see diversity, but they don't understand diversity is right in front of their eyes. Diversify the world outside your window, diversify your tastes. And you'll find that all of a sudden diversity exists. It's been there for so long in comics and fiction and movies and music, everything. It's been diverse. It's so diverse at this point that diversity doesn't mean anything anymore. It's a given. It should be a given. The world is diverse. Right. Give me something else. Is it good? Is it actually good? Is it right quality with care? How much time did you put into it? Did you put a lot of care into it? Did you study up on it? Did you really try to, you know, master your craft? Are you trying still to master your craft? What kind of character is this? What are they going through? What are their struggles? What are they up against? What are the odds? I don't want to hear about your character is diverse. I could care less. It should be your story should be a given. This kind of stuff should just be a given. I want to hear about everything else. I want to hear about what's below the surface, because that's the thing that appeals to all of us. No one sits there and goes, I like Batman because he's a white guy. Right. No one says that. It's about what Batman's overcome, the things Batman can do, the things that he represents, the stuff that he's been through. That's what we relate to for every character.
Relatable.
Yeah. It's the same reason that when I was a kid, Bishop was one of my favorite characters. What a character. Oh my God.
True.
Freaking awesome character. I didn't think, I like Bishop because he's a black guy. Who says that? No one says that. You know who likes people based on their skin color? Racists.
Yeah.
People that like people and don't like people based on their superficial traits are racists and bigots. That's the funniest part. So when people were coming at me and going, oh, you're like this and you support that and this and that, I'm thinking, you guys just care about the surface. You guys just care about the superficial. You don't care about what's beneath. You don't care about the humanity that unites us all. You don't care about looking towards the similarities and looking past the differences to find common ground. You just want people that look like you, talk like you, think like you, and act like you. That sounds kind of bigoted to me. So that's why don't let cancel culture ruin your life, because most likely it's just people that are ignorant. And with that ignorance comes oftentimes lashing out in ways that they don't understand.
That was an awesome way to put it. That was great. That was great. That was, you know, that's the thing that absolutely drives me insane. I'm a white guy. When I was a kid, yeah, I mean, shocking. I know, it's shocking. But obviously, when I was a kid, I was a white kid, right? Another shocking point there. But I've read all these books, especially like X-Men or whatever, and it really, you know, I loved characters like Bishop and Forge, you know, or even like Banshee, fucking Irish, redhead, you know, like gingers, you know. Oh, God. But I loved them, and it didn't matter to me what they looked like because the characters were cool, you know. And that's the whole point I think that is missing today. Is like you don't have to force diversity into a book just to check a box, you know. Like you can have all the diversity you want in a book, which is awesome. And I think most everybody that's a comic book fan is going to accept diversity instantly if it's a cool character with real issues, real growth problems, you know, just everything a character goes through that relates to you. And it's not about skin color or sexual orientation or whatever, you know. It's about the character and the character's character, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's about, and this is something too. It's more about their actions than even their words. So it goes back to people as well. You can say all the right things, you can talk the talk, but if you're not walking the walk, it just is like, oh, okay, so this person doesn't actually practice what they preach. It's the same thing with characters. If you're telling me this character is a hero, well, heroes often they have they do self-sacrifice. They have traits that they put others before themselves. They overcome adversity. They oftentimes struggle with adversity from within. So those are heroic traits. If you're just telling me they're a hero because they're a hero, well, show me that they're a hero.
Right.
And that's the thing that a lot of the times you're just like, oh, it's presented as, you know, this is the character. But that's what I find sometimes is so confusing, because a lot of the times these characters that are supposed to be presented as heroes, they actually, if you just pay attention to their actions, they come across more like villains. They're selfish. Right. You know, they don't want to sacrifice. They would never sacrifice themselves for the benefit of others. They don't put themselves out. I mean, think about even looking back at like Spider-Man. He has a lot of faults. He's not a perfect person. But at the end of the day, I mean, even the reason he becomes a hero is so motivated by guilt in a way of that he should have done the right thing. And because he didn't, it cost him the life of his Uncle Ben. So all those kinds of things that take place, they teach him a lesson. They don't necessarily teach the reader a lesson directly. They indirectly teach the reader a lesson. And that's what I find is the difference between comics that are now and comics that were then. Comics now are more preachy. They're more direct with their message. They're kind of not taking for that the reader understands the subtlety that's being sprinkled throughout in the message. It's more about, this is the message. You get it? This is the message. This is what you're supposed to think. This is what you're supposed to, this is good. This is bad. If you're with this, you're bad. You know, it's very heavy-handed. But then before, it was about what the character went through. And if you related to that character, then you would follow their journey. You would get things throughout their message and go, oh, you know, that's kind of like something that I went through. I relate to that. It's very different ways of storytelling. But I find that oftentimes right now it's sad to see, but it's I guess it's something based out of corporate involvement. It's just, that's all I could think, honestly, is because corporations, they inherently do not like risk. And to be creative is inherently a risky business. You're always taking risks when you're creative. If you're not being creative. So if you're being safe, if you're worried about the bottom line more than the creativity behind it, if you're worried more about, well, how do we appeal to the widest possible audience? It's not through taking creative risks. It's through being safe. Right. And
Yep.
to them, pushing certain narratives, pushing certain things that are topical or trendy or whatever is a safe path. Instead of saying, no, let's stick to let's be creative. Let's have some integrity here. And in the long run, the thing that happens is these characters that we want to stick around that are diverse or whatever, or this and that, by giving them things to overcome, by making them more interesting characters, they survive, they become popular, they stick around. And then they stay there, and now you have more characters that people love that are of all different walks of life. So it's strange that they're actually doing the thing that's actually hurting their chances of survival for these characters. I mean, all I could think is I loved a lot of the characters introduced in that giant size X-Men. So you're talking about Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Wolverine. It just goes on and on. They introduced so many. And pretty much every single one of those characters is stuck around, and they've stood the test of time. Some have become way more popular than others, but every one of them has overcome something. Even with Storm, right off the bat, she's got claustrophobia. So she's overcoming different things. She's beyond unbelievably powerful, but at the same time, because of a trauma in her childhood, she can just fall to pieces given the right circumstance. And it's something that she has to overcome. It's all these little things, all this kind of stuff that's sprinkled throughout. You relate to them not because I'm claustrophobic too. I like Storm because of that. It's not that. It's more about seeing her overcome something, seeing her try to move past something that she's struggling with, and that's what people relate to. That's what people relate to heroes about, is the fact that, oh, look, they actually could overcome something. I could possibly overcome something too. That's what makes them inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's, I think you definitely forget about that. When you break it down like that, I think that is a big issue of today with the mainstream, because you want to, one thing I'll just say about the checking of the boxes or whatever, like, all right, we have to have a powerful female character. Because we have a powerful female character, she can't have the same kind of tropes that other characters have, because we don't want her to look weak. But when you do that, you don't create anything for us to relate to that character. She can always just show up. She always does the right thing. She always kicks everybody's ass, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't have a weakness. She doesn't have something that we can see her struggle with, so that we can grow with her and we can relate to her and see her overcome that and become the hero that she is. And we had that all the time when we were younger. And I think that's why, guys our age and older, those are the comics that were being fed to us, because we had characters that have flaws all the time. Peter, like you said, Peter Parker, he'd screw up all the time. He'd make wrong choices, but he'd overcome it at the end. He'd figure out, he'd find a way, and that everybody can relate to that. If you have a character that just shows up, has no struggle, it might be kind of cool to see it for a while. The art might be kind of cool, but after a while, you're going to get bored.
It's like, right, it's very close to Golden Age storytelling. And if anything, if you notice too, with the Golden Age heroes, a lot of those books were more prone to propaganda and more prone to preaching and more prone to one-dimensional characterization, which is something we're actually finding a lot of today. Whereas in the Silver Age, they had more flaws, they had more relatability, they had more things that they had to overcome. They didn't just show up and all of a sudden they saved the day. They're perfect characters. And, the lesson of the story today, kids, is that you just be like me and everything works out. It was more relatable, it was more real. So that's the funniest part. And also they can create all the strong female characters they want. Just, can you not say that they never existed beforehand? Because they did.
Right.
Many of them are at your company. that's the funny part.
Yep.
Again, don't put down the ones that came before to lift up the new ones. It's a very strange like bullying mentality, like you base your worth off of how much you put someone else down. It's so strange, and it's sad to see that's these two companies, especially that create such great mythos, that they feel that they need to actually put down what came before. Almost to like seem cool to the new kids, of like saying, oh yeah, those guys, they're stupid, no one likes them. They wear spandex. These guys, they got laces on the boots, they got all the little themes you can see, they're realistic. Those other guys, they're stupid, no one likes them. You got to use your imagination. Who does that? Only little kids use their imagination. These are for adults, these books. It's just the dumbest thing. It's so it's so sad to see, because it's the whimsy that's about him that makes you shut off your brain for a second to have that suspension of disbelief, which makes the journey the character goes through, the adventure that they go through, that larger than life stuff, that makes it all the more relatable. So it all becomes relatable. So even them up against, like Peter Parker up against Venom, a foe that seems like, you know, how the hell does he beat this guy? He can't. The spider doesn't work. You know, he knows everything about him. You know, he's psychologically like toying with him, but then at the same time, also Venom isn't necessarily like, and this is the Venom I grew up with for the most part. He's not necessarily like a bad guy either, because he doesn't want to hurt innocent people. He just wants to kill Spider-Man because Spider-Man did him wrong. He did both of them wrong.
We all need goals.
Yeah, so it adds like this psychological twist for the reader too. It's storytelling like that. Where's that kind of thing gone? It's so simplistic in its relatability. So I almost find that people are the creators out there. I don't know if it's them, again, because of the fact that the corporate structure is so involved in creation now. But something's missing. The magic that was there isn't really there as much as it was before, but it's there in all the indies that are out there, which is what I find is so funny when some people say, oh, well, you know, it's really difficult to get people to like new characters. And usually that's why we swap this and do that and whatever, you know, new characters, no one cares about them. But indie creators are doing it every day, and you just have to stick with it. And every indie creator would love to get the brand recognition of those bigger publishers, you know, they had that, and you have a great character, you know, great well-known publisher with a great new character, that's the sky's the limit. So it's kind of strange. The whole industry is strange right now. It's very bizarro, but it's a good time to be an indie creator and an indie reader.
Absolutely. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark, so I think we're going to wrap it up around 2 hours. But Elliot had a question I want to bring back up here. He said, for someone who doesn't know anything about Alterna, what would you say would be your flagship title?
That's difficult to say, only because we don't have necessarily a title that would define Alterna. Alterna's creator owned, so every single title is different. It's more about your tastes as a reader. We do have something for everyone, so I recommend going to alternacomics.com and take a look around. You can also go to alternaaccess.com and take a look at different genres, different age ratings. We have things that are appropriate for all ages, teens, adults, horror books, sci-fi books, fantasy books. We have all kinds of stuff. If you want me to say what our most popular books have been, I could do that. So I could say the top 5 would be Blood Realm. It came out on a Wednesday. Blood Realm is a dark fantasy book if you like Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of a thing. It came out on Wednesday. It's a horror, sci-fi, fantasy anthology. Gods and Gears, people really love that as well. That's a superhero fantasy adventure. Kind of got some cosmic stuff in there too. Legends of Log is a relatively new book, but that's been one of our most popular books this year. That's a fantasy adventure book, kind of like if Conan the Barbarian was like an animated tree log that defeated the forest. That would be the book. And then you get like a book like Voidwalker, which is pretty popular too. That's like a crime horror superhero book.
Yeah, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, so it's more about the different tastes that you would have as a reader, as opposed to books that define Alterna, because Alterna is kind of undefinable in a way. We're like the island of misfit toys for a lot of great comics. Yeah, right. Good Simon on 7. Yeah, it's very varied in style and genre, but we've got something for everyone, and I guarantee that you'll dig what we've got, especially if you try it out. It's $1.99 or so a comic, and we got something for everybody, and I think you'll like it.
And Elliot, I've got the link to the Alterna website in the information for this video on YouTube. So if you want to follow that, check it out, dive in a little bit more. I think you would really enjoy it. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Well, guys, I'm going to start wrapping this show up here. I want to thank everybody that came in the chat and asked questions and joined us tonight. Peter, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great conversation. I really inspired. You know, we talk a lot about art. We talk a lot about art on this channel, but we don't really talk a lot about like publishing and in that aspect of the industry. So this was really fun to have. Yeah, very inspiring.
Yeah, I want to close it off too with I might be one of the only publishers in the industry that'll say this, but you don't need a publisher to succeed. I didn't need a publisher to succeed. So I'd be the last person on earth to say, oh, you absolutely need me. Otherwise, you can't possibly do this. No, you can do it. It's going to take time. Be patient with yourself. Learn as much as you possibly can. Be open to that experience too. Don't just think like, oh, well, I don't really need to know that. Someone else will know that. I'll just, I'll leave it to them. Try to learn as much as you can about everything. This way, if you ever need to help out, you can. And also this way, that if something needs to get done, you know how to do it and how it needs to be done the right way, or at least in a way that you can do it. So just take your time, be patient with yourself. All this stuff, there's a learning curve to everything. Don't try to rush into it. Realize that if you really want this bad enough, if you really want to be in this kind of a business, you're going to have this kind of a career, it might take you about 10 years or so. For the first 6 years of Alterna, I worked 2 or 3 jobs as well as doing Alterna stuff. So it takes time. Don't beat yourself up. I find too many creative people out there, they're not successful in a year or something and they beat themselves up. They have like this kind of bucket list set time of whatever they have to do.
Right.
And if they didn't, if they're not a crazy success by 30 or 35 or 40 or whatever it is, they give up and they say, well, that's it. Be patient with yourself. Just give it your best. Give it as much as you can. Don't sit there thinking that you can't do it.
Great advice. I love it. And what a show, man. That's why I love this show, man. We get to talk to interesting guests all the time, and I'm always motivated when I talk to indie creators. I really am. At the end of the show, I'm just, like I said before, Sean and I are both working on our own books, for crowdfunding next year, and this is the kind of stuff that just keeps me excited and wanting to do more. So I thank you so much for coming on. It's a great show. We're gonna have to have you on again. Just shoot the shit about more comics, because this was just a fun conversation.
Yeah, you're just good people, man. Like,
yeah, dude,
that's what's awesome. So you're just good people.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Well, it was a blast being on here. I'm glad we could talk about comics and complain about the industry and whatnot. That's good too.
Yeah. If you want to stick,
love.
Yeah, because we care. I mean, that's you complain because you care, and that's really what it comes down to. If you want to stick around for just a second after I end the stream, we'll wrap everything up here. And so, thank you everybody for joining us. Friday night is Friday, right? Yeah, Friday night. Be safe out there. Entering into the weekend. Take care, everybody, and go to Alterna Comics. Check them out if you haven't already. Look into their catalog. Support them. Got great creators, great books, and Indiegogo.
There you go.
Indiegogo campaign. Check that out. I got it this time. Everything should be in the links. Our links should be in the information for the show. So before we get out of here, I almost forgot. Is there anything, Pete, that you want to push? Plug out there before we get out of here? Social media sites, all that kind of
there's
stuff.
There's definitely the Indiegogo. If you guys want to stop by on Twitter, you can follow me at Peter Simeti and make sure to say hello. I'll make sure to say hello back. And also, there's a couple other alternate creators that have great campaigns going on right now too. So, Rob Geronimo of Blood Realm has his Wirehead campaign going on. Gods and Gears creator Ryan Wynn has his Hammerella campaign going on, and Voidwalker creator Spencer Desmond has his City of Rot campaign going on. So check those out as well. Those are all good books too.
That's awesome. Sean, where can we find you?
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Sean Ahrendt, all across the board. Google me. You might find some surprises. Shit happens, but that's pretty much me. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, all the social media sites, YouTube, you can find me there. Just Joe M. Sonntag, and you'll get maybe dick pics. I don't know. Like it could be out there. If you do, I'm sorry. Yeah, after last night, I mean, yeah, shit. But
you might get that from me, but it'd be dick van.
Yeah, there you go. I do want to tell everybody on the 6th of November, we are moving to the Out and Stuff channel that we're going to be relaunching the show on. So everybody check that out. We're going to have a lot of guests, a lot of past guests come on and just chill out. It's going to be kind of a different show than we've done before, but it's going to be fun. And Pete, Peter. I keep calling you Pete. I have a brother named Pete, so
That's fine.
it's
Peter. Hey, you. That's fine.
Peter, you are invited to come on that show if you have the time and you would like to. We would definitely enjoy you to come on if you have time on the 6th of November to shed your beautiful, beautiful grace with us. That'd be awesome.
All right. I'll keep it down on the calendar. Hopefully I'm available. That sounds like good time.
That would be great. All right, everyone. So I'm rambling enough. So
and next week we have Ken Hunt. Is that?
Oh, thank you. Yes, Ken Hunt, and we're going to talk about his Kickstarter. See, it just bouncing back here. You know,
Yeah.
He's
got off the cocaine, Joe.
But I don't want to.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. I love you all. Think of me
Thank
naked.
you all.
I'll talk to you next week.
See ya.